It is by far the hottest news story dominating the airwaves as last night I reported on how Sean Diddy Combs was arrested at his hotel out in New York and that he was going to get arraigned today. And when they arrested him last night, uh, the charges that was revealed today were sealed. So since then, the document of his indictment was unsealed, and there was a report about him offering $50 million for him to get bail, and the judge has basically came out and said no. Right now, before I get into the details of the bail, right, I just want to say this, right? This is very disappointing for a guy that is a mogul, for a guy who has, basically had the world at his feet, and for it to come crashing down on him like this, it's, it's rather disappointing. But Diddy, basically went on this power trip. He let the thing go to his head, and this is the result of when you let power go to your head and you don't do uh, by the will of your community, the people who propped you up, right? And another thing, this whole thing involving Diddy is a distraction, right? And why do I say this is a distraction? Because there's a lot of corruption going on in New York right now in the city involving the police commissioner, the mayor, the aides to the mayor, right? We've seen uh, the New York police commissioner, Edward Caban, we've seen him resign. We've seen um, cases to where you got the aides to Officer Eric Adams being arrested. Eric Adams himself is in the midst of a federal investigation involving him taking money from the Turkish people, right? So if you ask me, this whole thing involving Diddy serves more of a distraction to what's really going on in New York City. And on top of that, while people are being distracted by Diddy, and we're going to talk about more about this in the video, I'll be remiss to put out that Kamala Harris, the vice presidential candidate, had a sit-down interview with the NABJ. And we're going to talk about that more in a future video. I'm probably going to talk about that tomorrow. Kamala Harris to sit down with the NABJ. And we're going to talk more about the corruption that's going on in New York. I mean, that corruption is so rampant right now, it's hard to keep up with all the players that's involved in that scheme. But anyway, let's talk about Diddy because he got denied bail, and pretty soon somebody's going to be telling him to take that, take that. So, a federal judge has denied Sean Diddy Combs' efforts to be free before his trial on sex trafficking charges. And a just 2-hour hearing in New York City courtroom, Magistrate Judge Robert F. Tarnoff agreed with the argument put forth by the U.S. Attorney's Office that Combs is a danger to the public. He's also a flight risk because last night, someone on Twitter, and you got to take this with a pinch of salt, but there's been unconfirmed reports about he trying to flee the country in a private jet. There's that too. So not only he's a danger to the public, it's also a flight risk. And especially potential witnesses in the detailed case against him. After the client entered a not guilty plea in the court earlier this afternoon, defense lawyers pitched a $50 million bond for Combs and in home detention. Why? Why you want to have home detention? You mean the same place that the feds was kicking down the door on earlier this year? That home? Really? What's up, Eric? That place, right? We can continue to have the freak offs and the thousands of bottles of baby oil. I just want to say, what the fuck do you need thousands of bottles of baby oil for? What kind of freak shit you got going on? The way you need a thousand bottle of baby oil? Really? Mm-mm-mm. After hearing both sides and taking a brief break to consult with court officials behind closed doors, the judge ordered that Combs be detained. While seemingly certain, the order doesn't entirely end the issue of being in or out of custody for Combs. The defendant can make a Hail Mary and appeal the ruling to the district court, though it is unlikely they will overturn Judge Tarnowski's decision. Still, outside the courthouse, Combs' main attorney, Mark Agnifilio, Agnifilio Agnifilo said that the defense would be appealing Judge Tarnowski's decision to keep his client in custody. The U.S. Attorney's Office had not commented on the judge's ruling yet. Mm-mm-mm. So, the next hearing in the matter in Judge Tarnowski's courtroom is set for September 24th. No trial date has been scheduled as of yet. He has officially entered a plea of not guilty in charges of trafficking, racketeering, and transportation to engage in prostitution. Mm-mm-mm. He faces more than 20 years behind bars if found guilty on charges revealed in a three-count indictment unsealed early this morning. Mm-mm-mm. Now, I'm going to read some of this stuff, and I will warn you, some of the stuff could be graphic in nature. Viewer discretion is advised. You've been warned. So for decades, Sean Combs, aka Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, PD, or Love, the defendant, abused, threatened, and coerced women and others around him to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct, declares the just unsealed indictment against the much accused producer and performer. To do so, Combs relied on his employees' resources and the influence on the multifaceted business empire that he led and controlled, creating a criminal enterprise whose members and associates engaged in and attempted to engage in, amongst other crimes, sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. And the language very similar to the swath of sexual assault other lawsuits against Combs in the past several months. The indictment alleges that Combs used drugs, violence, and career advancement in the music industry to induce and control his victims, entourage, and others. The rapper also seemingly used shame and blackmail to keep people from speaking out. The sensitive, embarrassing, and incriminating recordings that he made during the freak-offs as collateral to ensure the continued obedience and silence of the victims. The Fed said the freak-offs were elaborate and produced sex performances that Combs arranged, directed, masturbated during, and often electronically recorded. What the fuck? Mm-mm-mm. Just jacking off to your freak-offs, huh? Boom, chicka, wow, wow. What a, man, I'm telling you. Combs is currently awaiting arraignment in a Manhattan courtroom. The law performer he's pleaded not guilty, and he's going to fight with all his energy and all his might to the full confidence of the lawyers. This is his attorney said outside the federal building this morning. Mm-mm-mm. Now y'all remember that video that came out, about that video slightly last night involving Cassie. When that video came out, uh, Diddy beating the hell out of that girl and dragging her down the hallway, that right there signaled the end of his life right there as he knows it, right? Nobody will go near him. Nobody. Nobody will touch this man with the longest antenna pole in New York. What's up, y'all? I see y'all up in the building, man. Do me a favor, hit that like button and support the channel. This is crazy. This is fucking crazy. Now, I'm going to read this 14 count indictment, or this 14-page indictment, right, that was unsealed this morning. And once again, I will warn you that this is some freaky, geeky, graphic shit, right? If you have sensitive ears, this your time to leave because it's about to get graphic. Now, Sean Combs, the defendant, operated his businesses headquartered at various times in Manhattan and Los Angeles under a variety of U.S.-based corporate entities, including Bad Boy Entertainment, Combs Enterprises, Combs Global, corporate entities, and the Combs business included, amongst other things, record labels, a recording studio, Paroline, the Sean John Alcoholic Spirit Businesses, Ciroc, a marketing agency, and a television network, Revolt, and media company. At all times related to this indictment, the defendant engaged in a persistent and persuasive pattern of abuse towards women and other individuals. This abuse at times verbal, emotional, physical, and sexual. As part of his pattern of abuse, Combs manipulated women to participate in highly orchestrated performances of sexual activity with male commercial sex workers. At times, Combs and others acting in his direction made arrangements for women and commercial sex workers to fly to Combs' location. Combs ensured participation from the women by, amongst other things, obtaining and distributing narcotics to them, controlling their careers, leveraging his financial support, and threatening to cut off the same, and using intimidation and violence. The defendant was recurrent and widely known on numerous occasions from at least in or about 2009 and continued for years. Combs assaulted women by, amongst other things, striking, punching, dragging, throwing objects at, and kicking them. The assaults were at times witnessed by others and included at one instance at an LA hotel in or about March of 2016, which was captured on video and was later publicly reported, where Combs kicked, dragged, and threw a vase at a woman as she was attempting to leave. That was Cassie. While a member of the hotel security staff intervened, Combs attempted to bribe the staff member to ensure silence. So basically, he bribed the guy $50,000 to not have that tape get out. Unfortunately for Diddy, that tape got out. Combs' violence was not also limited to women. It extended his employees' witness to abuse in others. The defendant used the Combs business, including certain employees, to carry out, facilitate, and cover up his abuse and commercial sex. Those employees, including security staff, household staff, personal assistants, and other high-ranking supervisors, and those close associates acted as Combs' intermediaries, and the conduct was facilitated and assisted by Combs' control of the Combs business. Hey, where is Farnsworth Bentley at? Where is he at? Because I'm pretty sure that umbrella dancing individual got a lot to say. Where's Farnsworth Bentley at? Anyway, from at least in or around 2008 through on or about to the date of the filing of this indictment. So basically, what's going on right now? The love defendant and others known and unknown were members and associates of a criminal organization. Members and associates of the Combs Enterprise engage in and attempted to engage in, amongst other activities, sex trafficking, forced labor, interstate transportation for the purposes of prostitution, coercion, and enticement to engage in prostitution, narcotics offenses, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. The Combs Enterprise and its leadership and members and associates constitute an enterprise as defined by Title 18 U.S. Code 1961-4, that is a group of individuals associated in fact, although not a legal entity. Combs Enterprise consisted of Sean Combs, Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, Diddy, PD, Love, entities within the Combs businesses, but not limited to Bad Boy, Combs Enterprises, Combs Global. Combs Enterprise constituted an ongoing organization whose members function as a continuing unit for a common purpose of achieving the objectives of the Combs Enterprise. Combs Enterprise engaged in and its activities affected interstate and foreign commerce. They try to make it seem like this man was out here just being a goddamn on the modern day, Don Dada and all that stuff, man. This is crazy. Meanwhile, we got politicians who committed these same acts. I'm looking at you, Matt Gaetz, and Matt Gaetz is still running around as a politician. All the meanwhile, his homeboy, his confidant, Joel Greenberg, took the fall. Now, I got to say this, right? And a lot of people are going to be upset by what I'm saying, but guess what? I don't give a fuck, okay? I don't give a shit because I don't got no dog in the fight and I don't got no horse in the race, right? Now, we got these mechanisms in place to where if you feel violated, if you feel a certain type of way about a situation, you have every right to get out of there and, seek help, make start an alternative lifestyle or whatever like that, right? But I believe that a lot of women engage in these type of activities willingly because it gives them access to individuals they would not have access to if they weren't around with Diddy. I know that's a hard pill to swallow. I know a lot of people don't want to hear that truth, but at the same time, it is what it is. Cause see, the whole thing about Cassie is not a winner in this case, and Cassie did not do this for all women. Cassie did this for Cassie, right? Because if that's the case, then if Cassie did this for all women, then why is the chick from Danity Kane trying to get a slice of the pie? Why is all these women coming out now trying to get a slice of the pie if Cassie did this for all women? It was all good in the neighborhood when Cassie was going around here, you know, getting paid, getting laid, and all these other dudes was out there were doing whatever, whenever, however, and stuff like that, and she was getting paid. But the minute he stopped paying her, then all of a sudden there's a problem. Cassie did not do this for all women. Cassie did this for Cassie. And there's a lot of women out there that will subject themselves to that kind of nonsense all because they're looking for their own come up. And you can't tell me that shit don't goes on. If you try to tell me that shit doesn't go on, then you're delusional. You're living in a fairy tale world, right? You see this stuff on social media all the time. I want that man taking me to Cheesecake Factory. I need a man to spend money on me. So let's not act like that type of shit don't go on. It doesn't look. Is Diddy responsible? Yes, because as a mogul, as a guy who has a lot to lose, yes, you have to be careful of what you say and what you do and how you move. He should know that by now. He's 54 fucking years old. How does he not know that? That being said, though, there's a lot of people that will subject themselves to that kind of buffoonery all for the almighty dollar. See, they don't want to hear that truth, though. They don't want to hear that truth. Let's continue on. Operating a global business in media, entertainment, and lifestyle industries, including, amongst other things, record labels, recording studio, apparel line, all that stuff, right? enriching members and associates of the enterprise, including his leader Combs, and in the particular who demonstrated loyalty to Combs and willingness to conceal their crimes. Right? Yeah, because it's never about doing the right thing. It's only doing the right thing when the money stops coming in. Right? Because a lot of people don't have morals, don't have honor, don't have ethics, don't have respect about themselves, and only when that money stops coming in, then that's when they find their moral compass. This is not to defend or support what Diddy did. I just want to stress that for the people in the back, because I know there could be some fucking dimwit that's gonna come here. Oh man, you're defending Diddy. Oh man, you support Diddy on his birthday. I can't believe you said the LB. I knew there's gonna be some fucking dimwit that only gonna hear what they want to hear, and as soon as I say a keyword, they fucking dopamine is gonna perk up. I know it, because some people only have selective hearing. They don't want to hear everything. They only want to hear what they want to hear. Once again, for the impaired of who can't comprehend, I do not support P. Diddy. I do not. If these charges are true, throw the book in his ass, lock him away, and throw away the key. Okay? All right, now that we got that established. Combs, through violence, use of firearms, threats of violence, coercion, and verbal, emotional, physical, and sexual abuse, fulfilling the desires of Combs, particularly related to Combs' sexual gratification, including through the exploitation of women and the use of commercial sex workers. Combs and other members of the Associates of the Combs Enterprise to engage in unlawful acts of violence, including sexual violence, sex trafficking, forced labor, interstate transportation for purpose of prostitution, coercion, and enticement to engage in prostitution, narcotics distribution, and other crimes, concealing the commission of such acts, securing absolute loyalty from members of the enterprise, including through acts of violence and threats, protecting the Combs Enterprise and its members and associates, including Combs, from detention and prosecution by law enforcement authorities through acts of intimidation, manipulation, bribery, threats of retaliation against individuals who witnessed the crimes committed by members and associates of the enterprise. Combs and other members of the associates of the Combs Enterprise wielded the power and prestige of the Combs role and at the Combs business to intimidate, threaten, and lure females in the Combs' orbit, often under the pretense of a romantic relationship. Combs would then use force, threats of force, and coercion to cause victims to engage in extended sex acts with male commercial sex workers that Combs referred to as, amongst other things, freak offs. And so these freak offs were elaborate and produced sex performances that Combs arranged, directed, masturbated during, and often electronically recorded. In arranging these freak-offs, Combs, with the assistance of members and associates of the Combs Enterprise, transported and caused to be transported commercial sex workers along across state lines and internationally. Freak-offs were occurred regularly, sometimes lasted multiple days, and often involved commercial, multiple commercial sex workers. During freak-offs, Combs distributed a variety of controlled substances to victims, in part to keep the victims obedient and compliant. Some unbeknownst to the victims, Combs kept videos he filmed of victims engaging in sex acts with commercial sex workers. After these freak-offs, Combs and the victims typically received IV fluids to recover from the physical exertion and drug use. Members and associates of the Combs Enterprise, including high-ranking supervisors, security staff, household staff, personal assistants, and other Combs business employees, facilitated the freak-offs, amongst other things, booking hotel rooms for the freak-offs, stocking the hotel rooms in advance with the required freak-off supplies, including controlled substances, baby oil, lubricant. What kind of shit extra linens, and lighting. What the hell? What kind of, hey man, there must have been in that bitch making the room stink. I mean, this has to be some next level motherfucking, what they call that shit? Uh, Orgies. Yeah, that's what they call them. There must have been some next level orgy session. Must have been 6 on 6, tag teaming, switching off, doing all kind of shit. What the hell is going on with these free? And I'm pretty sure they had to really clean and really sanitize those rooms and all that. You pretty much had to run the blue light to make sure no DNA was stuck on the side of the toilet or on the sink or on the bed sheet or on the floor. Hell, there must have been some nut droppings in the vase. What the fuck? Anyway, cleaning the rooms after these freak offs to try to mitigate the room damage because yeah, they was really in that bitch making the room stink. Smell like pussy and dick and shit in that bitch. Anyway, or Badussy. Arranging for travel for victims, commercial sex workers, and combs to and from these freak offs, resupplying combs with requested supplies, delivering large sums of cash to combs to pay for the commercial sex workers, and scheduling the delivery of IV fluids. And about March of 2024, during searches of Combs' residences in Miami, Florida, and Los Angeles, California, law enforcement seized various freak-off supplies, including narcotics, and more than 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricant. What the fuck is that shit? I'm still freaked out about that. 1,000 bottles of baby oil. So next time I go to the Walgreens or CVS or some shit like that, you gotta tread carefully buying that type of shit. Mm-mm-mm. Now, Combs subjected victims to physical, emotional, and verbal abuse to the victims engaging in these freak-offs. Combs maintained control over his victims, among others, right, which are already covered. During and separate from freak-offs, Combs, amongst others, hit, kicked, threw objects at, and dragged victims at times by the hair. These assaults often resulted in injuries that took days or weeks to heal. Combs also threatened victims' careers and livelihoods, including if they resisted participating in these freak-offs. Victims believed they could not refuse Combs' demands without risking their financial or job security or without repercussions in the form of physical or emotional abuse. Combs also used the sensitive, embarrassing, and incriminating recordings that he made during the freak-offs as collateral to ensure the continued obedience and silence of the victims. Members and associates of the Combs enterprise, including security personnel, often carried firearms. On more than one occasion, Combs carried himself or brandished firearms to intimidate and threaten others, including victims and witnesses to his abuse. And on about March 2024, during searches of Combs' residences in Miami, Florida, and Los Angeles, California, law enforcement seized firearms and ammunition, including 3 AR-15s with defaced serial numbers, as well as a drum magazine. Defaced serial numbers? Really, yo? Defaced. So you were scratching off the serial numbers to the AR-15. You're done, son. You're done. You're done. Now, that's the thing, right? Because see, nobody's talked about this, but I'm gonna tell you this, right? The only way that these pieces of evidence can be rendered invalid is if it's not included in the search warrant. Because in the search warrant, you have to be very specific about what you're looking for, right? In a search warrant, if the search warrant is calling for, hey, we suspect that this kind of activity going on at this house, we suspect that there's evidence corroborating to what we suspect is at this house. So we are looking for this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? And that stuff is listed in the search warrant. That gets presented to a judge. The judge signs off on the search warrant, and then that's when the feds go in. That's when the feds go in and they take what they're looking to take. Now, if I'm a defense attorney, I would need a copy of that search warrant because if there's stuff that was taken from that house that was not part of the search warrant, then you cannot use that in court. Matter of fact, that would be inadmissible in court. Now, nobody else will tell you this. And no, this is not for, once again, for the deaf, for the blind, or for the people who just don't want to listen to anything. This is not to defend Diddy. But if I was a defense attorney, one of the things I will ask for are a copy of the search warrant to see what was taken from the house, and what was taken from the house matches what was on the search warrant. Because if it's not, then you cannot use that to prosecute him in court. This is not to defend Diddy, and it's damn sure not to support him. I got to keep on saying that because people can only hear what they want to hear. Now, members and associates of the Combs enterprise enable Combs' control over victims by following his directions regarding financial payments to victims, advancing or suppressing the victim's career opportunities, and acquiring the controlled substances Combs used to keep the victims compliant. Members and associates of the Combs enterprise at times witnesses Combs' violence toward the victims or the victims' injuries caused by Combs while intervening. Instead, members and associates of the Combs enterprise help conceal the violence and abuse by, amongst other things, assisting Combs in monitoring and preventing victims from leaving locations such as hotels or Combs residences. These occasions including instances in which the victim was required to remain in hiding sometimes for several days at a time to recover from injuries from Combs inflicted without being publicly observed. Members and associates of the Combs enterprise also assisted Combs in locating and contacting victims who attempted to flee his abuse. And you know what? That coincides with what Gene Deal was talking about when it comes to Kim Porter. Kim Porter was formerly P. Diddy's girlfriend, right? Unfortunately, Kim Porter is no longer with us. Kim Porter has had multiple children from Diddy, right? And I remember one episode on the Art of the Dialogue how Gene Deal was talking about how Kim Porter was trying to get away from Diddy. Diddy don't want her dealing with nobody else, right? We talked and how how her moves were being tracked by Diddy. We also talked about um a lawsuit that Cassie filed, right? About how the rapper she was dating, Kid Cudi, right? When she was dating Kid Cudi at the time, and Kid Cudi's car blew up. So when I read this and I think about the incident with Kim Porter, the incident with Cassie, this is pretty consistent. So it's very hard for me to believe Diddy when he comes out and say, I didn't do any of this stuff. I'm totally innocent. It's very hard for me to believe that when I read this indictment and then I think about the two instances. There's the two instances I know. God knows how many more incidents there are out there. But it's hard for me to believe Diddy when I think about those instances and I read this indictment. Mm-mm-mm. You're done, son. When employees, witnesses to his abuse, or others threaten Combs' authority or reputation, Combs and members of the associates of the enterprise engage in acts of violence, threats of financial and reputational harm, and verbal abuse. These acts of violence included kidnapping and arson. In addition, on multiple occasions, Combs threw both objects and people, as well as hit, drag, choke, and shove others. When Combs' authority or reputation was threatened by the possibility of negative publicity or legal or law enforcement action against him, including in or about late 2023, following Combs' um, allegations of crimes, Combs and members and associates of the enterprise pressured witnesses and victims, including through attempted bribery, to stay silent and not report what they experienced or what they knew to law enforcement. On phone calls, Combs and other members of the associates of the enterprise, amongst other things, provided these victims and witnesses with a false narrative of events in the effort to conceal Combs' true crimes. Combs call, caused these calls to be recorded on at least two occasions. Now, racketeering. From at least in or about 2008, though on about the following this indictment, Southern District of New York and elsewhere, the defendant, known and unknown, being persons employed by and associated with the Combs enterprise described in paragraph 6 to 12 of the indictment, engaged in the activities of which affected interstate and foreign commerce, knowingly combined, conspired, confederated, and agreed together and with each other to violate the racketeering law of the United States, to wit, Title 18 U.S. Code Section 1962C, that is to conduct and participate directly and indirectly the conduct of the affairs of the Combs Enterprise through a pattern of racketeering activity, as that term is defined in Title 18 USC or U.S. Code Sections 1961-1 and 1961-5, continuing or consisting of multiple acts of kidnapping, chargeable under the following provisions of state law: California Penal Code 207, kidnapping; California Penal My bad, y'all. Temporary lost connection for a little bit, but we're gonna get this in. We're gonna read this indictment out. Because this is crazy what's going on. This is crazy. Appreciate everybody for tuning in on this live stream. Yeah, man, this Diddy, you know, these charges turn out to be true. He's done. He is so done. He's done. There ain't no coming back from this. There ain't no sob story that he can come up with that's going to get him out this one. He is done. And it's a shame. It's a shame. This man basically had the world at his feet. This man had the world at his feet, and this is what happens when you associate with the wrong crowd. When you call yourself trying to be bigger than what you really are, and all that, man. Mm-mm-mm. So we finish this indictment off so that way we can get up out of here, because I got some gambling to do later on here in a little bit. So I get my motherfucking gamble on, right? But this indictment, this indictment, man, crazy, crazy ass indictment. All right. Mm-mm. Let me see. Now, where was I at? Where was I at? We on like page 9. Do 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 do.
Okay, here we go. So we got multiple acts involving arson, bribery, multiple acts including Title 18, USC Code 1512, 1589, 1591, 2421, multiple offenses involving the possession with the intent to distribute or distribution of narcotics and controlled substances, including the cocaine, oxycodone, um, some other barbiturates and stuff like that, gamma hydroburic acid, and ketamine, in violation of Title 21. It was part of conspiracy that the defendant agreed that a conspirator would commit at least two of the acts of racketeering activity in the conduct of the affairs of the Combs enterprise. From at least 2009 up including 2018, Southern District of New York, the defendant agreed to and affecting interstate and foreign commerce, blah, blah, blah. The grand jury charges, right, that from at least 2009, 2018, the defendant knowingly recruited, enticed, harbored, transported, provided, obtained, advertised, maintained, patronized, and solicited by any means of person, knowing and reckless disregard of that fact, by means of force, threats of force, fraud, and coercion. It will be used to cause the person to engage in commercial sex acts and attempted, aided, and abetted, and willfully cause the same to what crimes recruited, enticed, harbored, transported, and maintained a person victim one. We'll see who that victim one is later on. And attempted, aided, and abetted, and forcefully caused victim one to engage in commercial sex acts, knowing and reckless disregard of the fact that victim one was engaged in commercial sex acts as a result of force, fraud, and coercion. Now, I think that victim one is Cassie, considering that Cassie filed the lawsuit last year. I think victim one is Cassie. Count three: transportation to engage in prostitution, and we talked about that already. Forfeiture allegations as a result of committing the offense, the defendant shall forfeit any and all interest to the defendant acquired and maintained in violation of Title 18, any and all interest in securities of claims against property or contractual rights of any kind, affording a source of influence over the enterprise name and described with herein, which the defendant established, operated, controlled, conducted, and participated in the conduct of in violation of Title 18 U.S. Code Section 1962, any and all property constituted and derived from proceeds obtained directly and indirectly, said offense, included but not limited to a sum of money in United States currency, represent the amount of proceeds traceable to the commission of said offense. So basically, they seized all his assets. They seized all his assets, they seized his properties, and they pretty much frozen his bank accounts. As a result of committing the alleged offense and count three, the indictment, the defendant shall forfeit to the United States pursuant any and all property, real and personal, constituted or derived from proceeds obtained directly or indirectly as said of said offense, any and all property, real or personal, that was used to attend to commit or facilitate the commission of said offense, any and all property, real and personal, that is derived from proceeds traceable to the commission of said offense, included but not limited to a sum of money and currency, United States currency, represent the amount of proceeds traceable to the commission of said offense. If any of all above described forfeitable property as a result of any act or commission of the defendant cannot be located due upon the exercise of due diligence, has been transferred or sold to or deposited with a third person, has been placed beyond the jurisdiction of the court, has been substantially diminished in value, or has been commingled with other property which cannot be subsidized without difficulty. It's the intent of the United States to seek forfeiture of any other property of the defendant up to the value of the forfeitable property. So basically, through all that dribble, if he tries to put it in somebody else's name, or if he tries to devalue the assets or whatever like that, right? They'll take that too. So basically, from what I'm reading from that, he's broke. He's gonna be broke. His net worth is next to nothing, if already nothing, and this is not good. And the fall from grace is complete. The fall from grace for P. Diddy is complete. And it's a shame. It's a shame. It's a damn shame. Now, I read all that, and meanwhile, Roman Polanski is still free as a bird. Roman Polanski is still free as a bird. Make it make sense. Roman Polanski was doing all that crazy stuff, right? And he's still free as a bird. Meanwhile, Diddy is locked up in a cell, denied bail. The hearing is scheduled for September 24th, and there's no trial date yet. No trial date yet. We ain't got no trial date as of yet for P. Diddy. So he's going to be incarcerated that whole time up until his trial. Mm-mm-mm. You can't make this stuff up, man. You just cannot make this stuff up. So here's the question, though. How many more? How many more people involved in these freak offs, right? How many more people are going to go into damage control to try to make themselves less than a participator or collaborator in this nonsense, right? Because Diddy did not act on this alone. Obviously, when you do this type of shit for over 3 decades, right? He had to have collaborators, he had to have enablers, he had to have defenders of his nonsense. So he cannot, he might be the biggest fish, he's just not the only fish. That's what I'm trying to say. How many more? Because see, when they run that tape in court for these supposed freak offs, I can guarantee you there are more people who've been associated with Puffy all this time is going to get exposed. You're going to see a lot of people now trying to go into damage control. Whether it be executives, other recording artists, security, others, other executives and whatever like that, right? Diddy was not alone in these freak offs. He was not alone in these freak offs, and it's going to further expose a lot of these individuals who was associated with Diddy. Speculation of who these people are, but I'm not going to get into that. I'm not going to be getting no speculatory um, scenario of who could be possibly involved in these freak offs or whatever like that, right? We're just going to have to see.
But I know one thing: time reveals all, right? Time reveals all. And that if I go on social media and I start hearing a lot of these artists and all that starting to go into damage control mode and all that, then that should give you an idea who might be involved with Diddy indirectly or directly with these so-called freak offs, right? But I'm getting out of here. Um, this was a whole lot, man. This was a whole lot to unpack when it comes to Diddy, and that's not even scratching the surface, right? There's gonna be more details that come out about this, right? Now, this man has essentially lost everything. And when I do mean everything, I mean everything. This man has lost his whole life in the blink of an eye. And we started to see the house of cards come crashing down slowly but surely when Cassie filed that lawsuit last year. And then when she filed that lawsuit, and then not only she filed the lawsuit, he paid her like the next day. He came up with some statement talking about I deny all allegations and this, that, and the third, and he paid that girl the next day. And we're like, hold the fuck up. If you didn't do anything wrong, why are you paying this girl the next day after you filed this lawsuit? Unless there's something that you got going on that you don't want getting out. But unfortunately for him, after he paid that lawsuit, and then we saw the tape of him beating and kicking that girl and dragging her down the goddamn hallway at that hotel out there in California. That was it. It was game over for him after that. When that tape came out of him beating and kicking that girl and dragging her down the hallway, it was game over for him after that. He lost his endorsement deals, the Ciroc brand, the fucking he was a I guess he was a founder of Revolt. He lost that too, right? Nobody wanted anything to do with Diddy as far as like in the executive side. Like any deals that he had was off the table. Any deals that he had in place got canceled. He was toxic, and he still is toxic. You got radio stations refusing to play this man's music. Now, a lot of us was dancing to this man's music over the years. The fall from grace is complete. Pride comes before the fall. Pride comes before the fall. And the big question is, if he just so happens to beat this, right? And these some charges that are, man, insurmountable. How is he going to recover from this? How? And even if he recovers from this, right? I'm pretty sure there's people out there that still gonna want to associate themselves with Diddy because of the, well, I don't know if he has that same clientele anymore, but that was part of the reason why a lot of these people associate themselves with Diddy because of the clientele and because of the power this man held at one time or another. So this is crazy. This is beyond crazy, right? I mean, I Lord have mercy, man. Man, mm-mm-mm. I mean, then we ain't even talked about all the lawsuits that this man still got out there. This man lost $100 million lawsuit to some dude out in Michigan. Then you had the girl from Danity Kane filing her lawsuit. So that just, and then that's outside the Cassie lawsuit.
There's so many lawsuits that's right now that's on the table for Diddy right now, man. I don't know, man. Look, his legal team has a handful going on right now. They're going to be working around the clock to try to either get things settled or to try to get these things beaten. Because as of right now, Diddy is just, man. They're really trying to excommunicate this man from society after all what he's done. They're really trying to excommunicate him from society. Now, this is another thing, and this probably be my last thing before I get up out of here, right? You notice that you got individuals out there who commit these same type of crimes, like Vince McMahon, right? We're looking at you, Vince McMahon, because your ass is on the clock too, right? Sure, Vince McMahon sold WWE. Sure, Vince McMahon has been out of the public spotlight. Sure, Vince McMahon has a Netflix documentary coming out on September 25th, right? Surely, Vince McMahon has had legal issues, and those legal issues um, have not gone away, right? But at least what Vince McMahon can say that Diddy cannot say is that Vince McMahon is a free man. That's right. Vince McMahon is a free man. Now, I wonder why the feds ain't kicking down his door waving the 4-4. Oh, you gotta understand, LB. He's 70 years old, and people that old can't take that kind of stuff. So, what that got to do with anything? So, what if he's 78 years old? Go down there, kick down his motherfucking door, and bring his ass in too, right? Because I guarantee you, Janelle Grant ain't the only individual who's been subjected to Vince McMahon's crazy demands and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure when he was the owner of the WWE, he was the one calling the shots. I'm pretty sure a lot of those so-called divas out there, right, were subjected to all kinds of nonsense just to get a push. So why ain't Vince McMahon in jail? Why ain't Matt Gaetz in jail? Matt Gaetz been trafficking underage pussy across state lines, allegedly. He's been trafficking pussy under the age of 18 across state lines. Meanwhile, his buddy Joel Greenberg, who was down in Florida, who he been running with, doing the same shit. They was in the same room, getting their dick sucked at the same time. And yet Joel Greenberg took the fall, and Matt Gaetz is still operating in Congress right now. Make it make sense. Because see, if y'all want to sit there and talk about Diddy and all that, you're not going to make Diddy out to be the face of sexual predation out here when you got all these other predators running around here free. Like the Vince McMahons, like the Matt Gaetz, like the Roman Polanskis. Right? If we're going to be that way, we're going to be consistent across the board. We're not going to be picking and choosing of who to protect or who to get outraged over, right? Just because you like a certain person, we're not going to go into defense mode and putting on the cape and saying all kinds of bullshit just to protect the person you like. But all of a sudden, it's the person you don't like. Then it's yeah, LB, I know I can count on you. You make great videos. We're not doing that. We're going to be fair and balanced across the board. That's right. Because see, enough is enough of making black people out to be the face of everything that goes wrong in this country. Did you try to do that with Russell Simmons? You tried to do that with R. Kelly? We're not doing that. We're not doing none of that. If you're going to be that way when it comes to Diddy, we're going to be that way also when it comes to these other white supremacists out here. Matter of fact, one of the guys who's been um, accused and been found liable for sexual assault right now is running for president of the United States. Ain't that something? Ain't that something? So we got a guy in Donald Trump who sexually assaulted E. Jean Carroll. He got to pay all this money in damages or whatever, and he gets to run for president of the United States. Nobody's outraged by that. Where's the outrage? Where's this? Well, I'm not voting for this man because Donald Trump should not be anywhere near that. Now people want to disassociate themselves with Diddy because Diddy ain't making them no more money. He ain't providing them that dinero. He's not their safety blanket anymore. Now people want to disassociate themselves with him. Make it make sense. So again, this is not to defend Diddy, and this damn sure not to support him because he has not supported black people. And this is part of the reason why you don't take no political advice from entertainers or athletes and stuff like that. You don't put people like this man on a pedestal. Sure, you might give them respect for the work that they done and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, they're human. They're subjected to making mistakes. So they're subjected to falling short. And this is not. I'm not acting like I'm holy to die. God knows I made my share of mistakes. God knows I pay for my share of mistakes too. So I don't act like I'm more holy in the die because I know I ain't no damn saint. But at the same time, we gotta understand what we're dealing with here. That's all I'm gonna say about that. I thank everybody for tuning in. If you're not subscribing to this channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit that like button, share these videos on your social media platforms. If you want to donate to the cause, there's the Cash App, there's the PayPal on the bottom of the screen. Last but definitely not least, shouts out to the LDBC. This your man. Scream at me. Hey!